Welcome back to A Veil of Crime, where we uncover the darkest corners of history's most disturbing cases. Tonight, we step inside of one of Britain's most infamous houses of horror, 25 Cromwell Street in Gloucester. This is the story of Fred and Rose West, serial killers whose reign of terror spanned decades, claiming the lives of innocent young women, including their own children. Before we begin, I'd like to thank John and Sara for submitting this case for a deep dive. If you have a case you'd like me to research and feature, please reach out and request it. Now, let us lift the veil on this haunting case. Fred West was born in September 1941 in England. Raised in a rural farming family, his early life was marred by allegations of incest, physical abuse, and neglect. Rumors suggest that his mother, Daisy West, engaged in an incestuous relationship with him, and his father, Walter, was said to encourage the sexual acts within the household. These allegations, while debated, paint a disturbing picture of Fred's formative years. By adolescence, Fred had dropped out of school and developed a reputation for dishonesty, theft, and sexual aggression. A serious motorcycle accident in his teenage years left him with lasting head injuries, which some criminologists argue may have fueled his later violent impulses. Rosemary Pauline Letts, born in November 1953, endured her own deeply dysfunctional childhood. Her father, Bill Letts, was a paranoid schizophrenic known for his violent outbursts and controlling behavior. He subjected Rose to sexual abuse from an early age, while her mother, Daisy, reportedly struggled with depression and underwent electroconvulsive therapy while pregnant with Rose. These early traumas shaped Rose into a volatile, unstable individual. By her teens, she was known for promiscuity and erratic behavior, eventually gravitating towards older men. It was in her teenage years that she met Fred West, a man over a decade her senior, who recognized in Rose both a partner and a potential accomplice. Fred and Rose met in 1969 when Rose was just 15 years old. Despite her parents' objections, Rose became entangled with Fred, moving in with him shortly after. By 1972 they were married, and together they began to construct a household defined by control, abuse, and unimaginable cruelty. Fred already had children from previous relationships, and Rose quickly assumed the role of stepmother, though her care was sadistic and violent. Together, the pair created what would later be known as the House of Horrors at 25 Cromwell Street in Gloucester, where many of their victims would meet their tragic fate. Fred and Rose's killing spree is believed to have begun in the early 1970s and continued for nearly 2 decades. Their victims were often vulnerable young women, runaways, lodgers, and even their own daughters. The couple lured women into their home under the pretense of offering accommodation or work, only to subject them to prolonged torture, sexual assault, and eventually murder. The bodies were often dismembered and buried in the cellar under the floorboards or in the garden of 25 Cromwell Street. In total, it is believed that at least 12 young women were killed, though some investigators speculate the number could be higher. Perhaps the most shocking aspect of this case is the fact that Fred and Rose subjected their own children to sexual abuse and violence. Their daughter, Heather West, became one of their victims after enduring years of abuse. In 1987, Heather disappeared at the age of 16, and the Wests told their neighbors and relatives that she had run away. In reality, Heather had been murdered and buried in the garden. The fate of Heather eventually unraveled the case. Rumors among her siblings about her disappearance led teachers to contact authorities, sparking investigation that ultimately exposed their crimes. In 1992, one of the West children disclosed the abuse to authorities, leading to increased police scrutiny. By 1994, investigators obtained a search warrant for 25 Cromwell Street. Excavations in the garden and cellar revealed human remains, including Heather's. Over the following months, more bodies were discovered, linking Fred and Rose to at least a dozen murders. Fred was arrested and charged with multiple counts of murder, but in January 1995, before standing trial, he took his own life in prison by hanging. Rose, however, stood trial later that year and was convicted of 10 murders. She was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, one of the rare cases in Britain where a whole life tariff was imposed. The West case horrified the British public and remains one of the most infamous serial killer cases in UK history. It exposed not only the brutality of the Wests, but also the systemic failure in detecting prolonged abuse and disappearances. The Cromwell Street house was demolished in 1996 to prevent it from becoming a morbid landmark. To this day, Rose West remains incarcerated, and the story of Fred and Rose stands as a chilling reminder of how evil can manifest within the halls of a family home. Thank you for joining me for this deep dive into one of Britain's most haunting crime stories. Once again, a special thank you to John and Sara for submitting this case. If you have a case you'd like me to cover in detail, please reach out and make a request. It may be the next story we bring to light. If you found this episode informative, please like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Until next time, stay safe and remember, evil often hides in plain sight.